in higher education, in universities, if you fail, and you repeat that again, right? So it's cost on your side. You have to pay for that paper again.
Sure.
But go and ask your Bill Gates and Steve Jobs how many times did they fail in order to get to the success that they had, right? I think everyone knows that WD-40 spray, that lubricant spray where it helps you. So the reason why it's called WD-40 is because the guy took 40 times to perfect the formula, right? It's not called WD-5, it's WD-40. Because
That's interesting.
40 is the number of times he tried before he got, hey, this works, right? So why is it in education, when we're talking about digital, there's no one way of doing it. So why is it that if I fail on something, punish, right? It actually should be encouraged.
Hello and welcome to episode of What Now? Jom continuing our education mini series on alternative education for this episode. So episode lepas kita cakap pasal IZAS, cakap pasal APL, macam mana dynamic industry dan universiti sepatutnya berlaku. Betul?
Yeah. We're going to dive a bit deeper on that with this episode.
Yeah.
Slightly deeper, in a different way.
Yeah, slightly different way. Yeah. He's a very tall guy.
He's a very tall guy, yeah.
Very tall guy.
I thought I was tall, but then he came in. I'm a midget now.
You know what? He's the second tallest guy I've met.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, after Samuel.
Yeah,
Sam was like very tall, like he's also tall like Samuel.
I wonder what they would look like. Sorry.
Actually, yeah. Actually, we should have one episode together. But yeah, so today we're going to dive into our second episode of alternative education. So we talked about APA, but now let's talk about more on the business aspect in some way, and also in the tech aspect, right? Because we can tell that Malaysian digital education isn't like growing as much. But I think this company itself, right, has done actually an extraordinary job.
I mean, when you told me about it, I was like, I wonder if it took any. I just searched up a simple on the internet, tengok website terus dah macam wow.
God.
Wow, this is wow.
God. Yeah. Pretty good. And fun fact, actually, I've met this guy. Well, not like properly met, but I went to one of his lectures. I think like an open lecture. Dekat Sunway.
Yeah. Oh, yang apa? Bukan YAF yang education punya tu.
Yeah, so I think Daniel was there, and I was like, hey, can I join? Looks pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then I saw like one of his students demonstrated this game Pong, where it was pretty cool. So like how the game demonstrated was that the ball will like curl.
Okay.
Yeah, will curl and then has some special moves.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we want to know what's behind this master plan or this program that this organization created.
Well, I mean, I already said the name. I kind of spoiled it already.
Yeah, I mean, no spoilers. I was gonna say in the title anyway.
It's for you to get out. It's for you to get out, guys.
It's for you to get out, guys. But we're not bringing the CEO, but bringing the COO of 42KL. Yeah. So this guy has gone from BFM, from multimedia, and then tiba-tiba video coding. So please welcome Jeff Sandhu.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting, right? I didn't know you were there.
Oh really?
You were there. I didn't know. I didn't know there was a spy in that education redefined seminar that we had, and you were there. But good to know that actually we were blown away by it.
Yeah, well, I was blown by how innovative that game was. It was a simple game, Pong, right? But they made it fun.
Yeah, I think also, sometimes I'm surprised that, you mentioned to me that you looked up on the website and we were blown away by it. Because usually the number one comment that I would get is that like, is this a scam? Because it's free, right? I mean, how can you offer an education program for free, right? So usually we'll get a lot of emails asking, it's like, hey, this one true or not? Hey, legit ke bro? Like, and then we'll say, yeah, it is free, right? It's a legitimate thing. So I mean, yeah, happy to be here. Love to share a bit about how this whole thing came about. And we actually don't have a CEO, so even we wanted to invite the CEO, actually the organization works in a very unique way where we don't have a chief executive officer.
So you're like the highest.
Technically, it rests on me, and then I have obviously a director that I report to and a board of directors to report to. But yeah, if we're not performing, my head is on the chopping block lah.
Faham. But it's pretty cool that you actually started you're in this tech industry where you had a multimedia background. So like how did that happen?
Yeah, actually, so if I may just give a bit of a context on how my education journey sort of like started in the very early on. So my mom is a Montessori kindergarten teacher, and you can look it up, like what is Montessori and the learning of Montessori is, right, and principles around it. I would say I was too young to know anything about it when I was there. But I came from a very difficult upbringing where, it wasn't easy for me, growing up in KL. I grew up in Taman Melawati near the zoo. So I always had this kind of a challenge in, going to school, even like trying to just buy new textbooks and all, right? So I had to be very resourceful. And one of the things that I really stumbled across early on when I was I think in Form 2, Form 3, this is like late 1990s, 1998, 99, around there. You'll guess my age later on. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's where I started to actually learn a bit about HTML and Dreamweaver, right? How to build websites and all, right? And my high school, they were like, hey, actually, it'll be good if, a student can help build the website for the school, lah. And I was like, okay, let's try. Me and some of my friends, we try to do it. Obviously, we didn't do it, like, couldn't build it. It was so hard, like, right? It was just really hard. And we,
I was about to say that, this must be a Bill Gates story.
No. I wasn't going to go there. We built the school's website, and now the school's website. No. It was failed project, right? We couldn't even build anything. But it started my interest in like, wow, like actually in the digital world, there is no one rule of how you can do things compared to when I was in classrooms. It's like you sit in, everyone is facing one direction, which is the teacher's direction. But in digital, when you're trying to learn to build new things, there's actually no more of that, physical sort of like you have to point this way and this is the way of doing it.
That's right.
So that's where when I started, I said, hey, actually, digital is a very cool way for me to try to pursue something that I can build things out of nothing. SVM, I didn't do very well. I got like 2 A's and the rest of it was like, B's and C's. And
you did better than me, man.
So, but it was really tough, right? And it was really hard. So I remember at that point in time, I was asking my brothers, like, I really want to pursue this career in digital. And I remember he told me that, actually, when you go digital, it's about portfolio rather than certification, right? So I was like, okay, cool. So I decided to pick out a diploma in multimedia, majoring in video production.
Which university is that? MMU?
It's not. I wish I joined MMU. It was a very small academy. There was a PJ and it was a shop lot upstairs. Now they're a little bit more established, but at that time it was literally just one shop lot. They had 3 classrooms and that's it, right? And it was really small. But the concept of like why I wanted to choose that one was financially I was constrained, right? So I had to apply for a bank rakyat loan for to go into this. It was 18,000 ringgit or something, and my brother took up that. Quite expensive for just a diploma. And for me, in my mind, it's like I just want to come out of it as fast as possible because I can then start working.
Right.
So actually within like 6 to 8 months in my diploma program, my diploma was about 2.5 years. Yeah. Within 6 to 8 months, I already started doing a bit freelance job here and there, design brochure, flyer. This is in 2004, 2005.
Right.
So at that point of time, still, Instagram didn't exist yet. It was still Facebook and MySpace. It wasn't even Facebook, it was Friendster and MySpace.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so...
And the younger audience even know.
They don't, yeah, so Google it out, right? Look it up, right? So at that point of time, it was like, I just want to build, brochures, flyers and all this kind of stuff. So I used that as a portfolio. So I actually went up to one of my lecturers and said, can I skip some of the semesters? Because I'm already actually sort of like doing it, right? And the lecturer was, amazing guy. And he says, yeah, okay, so I actually did only about 1.5 years in total instead of 2.5 years, right? So 1.5 years, I came out.
But you still graduated.
Yeah. So I just didn't went for any graduation ceremony. It's just I have a cert somewhere. Somewhere.
That's the story. You kind of like have a cert for UPSL, but somewhere.
Somewhere. I don't even have my SVM cert, if I'm not mistaken. So, but anyways, that's a different story. I think Izzat's already shared all the importance of those. But my aim just started working, right? Yeah. So I started working as soon as I was 20 years old, just straight away, worked into the industry. I was a offline editor. So an offline editor, for just a bit of context, is when a director goes out and does his shooting, they will do 3 or 4 scenes of the same take, so 3 or 4 takes of the same scene, and then they will come back to you. And my task is to sort of find the best take and to put it together. If let's say a 30-second commercial, put it into a 30-second commercial. So that's offline editor. From offline editor, I was like, hey, this one, once I done, I send it to the online editors. The online editors are the ones where they do graphic design. They make the sky more bluer, and like suddenly got birds flying around, and all that, all superimposed stuff, right? Your sunset commercial, suddenly the before and after, wow, like amazing, right? It's all the CG, right? It's all 3D and all that, right? So I started learning those, and that's when I became an online editor. And then from online editor, I was like, hey, how do my company actually get these jobs, right? So I started learning how to, be a producer, where you go out, you do pitching. And then that's where, from there, then I went to another company where they were looking at really building this entire setup. I had some stints in Singapore in between. I'm just fast-tracking a lot of stuff. And I stumbled across BFM, and, we had a good talk about building this, tech ecosystem in Malaysia. And, from the get-go, going back to my high school days, I was a techie, right? I was like, hey, let's learn Dreamweaver. Although I failed at it, but I was always a techie, right? So that's like, yeah, cool. Like, let's do this tech radio show, and it was called Tech Talk, and it's still going on until now. And so we still had that, and it started off. I think I joined in like late 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And the BFM was still very new, and in that 10 years plus, when I was in BFM, really sort of like filled up that ecosystem of production and distribution, content creation, everything in place. And in that time in BFM, if you're asking me how did I move to this clothing space, so in that time, for me, I had a lot of guests that will come in and talk about some master plan, how they're going to change Malaysia's education system.
Oh, wow.
How they're going to do this. They launch this new thing, they launch this new that, and also great, right?
Yeah.
Always I get press release, this person is going to launch this thing, this person is going to do this. So always get it. But whenever I want to do a follow-up, what's the impact of, we launched this a year ago. Hey, can you come back to the show and talk to me about the impact? And they were like, oh, too busy, can't do it, right? But when I tried to find out, like, there's nothing, right? So I was like, okay, like, it feels like everyone just has a lot of blueprints, master plan, all this new initiative launch here and there. How hard can it be, right? So I came across 42, and I, joined the program. I was the first, in a way, official employee of the 42 Kuala Lumpur program. And, to now, 4 years in, it's been amazing. We're expanding to 2 different cities now, in Penang and in Iskandar Puteri in Johor. Next year, probably in East Malaysia, in, KK, Miri and Kuching. And, the idea is like me trying to, in a way, prove to others that, like, this is how you do it. Right? Let's just stop talking about coming out with a blueprint, a master plan, and just do it. Yeah. Right? Let's just all get together and do it.
True. Because like one thing about Malaysia is that, like, the education blueprint is always good.
Yeah.
It's a very good like plan, but we just fail to execute.
Execution has always been our Achilles heel in Malaysia ecosystem, right? It's just we can't execute things well. So here's me, some rebel just trying to execute a crazy idea, right?
Faham. But actually, before we move on to the second segment, I just want to touch about something about your beliefs in tech education, right? So like, what I read from what my researchers told me. Okay, so Taco, you're on the line, okay? This is what you said, okay? So you believe that it's not enough just to give students digital devices, right? Just to give them, a laptop or a phone or a tablet, right? So you feel like there should be more action. So what type of action do you feel that is needed to create better tech education?
Well, a lot, but I think the one that I would really want to see is that we celebrate failure rather than punishing failure. I think in high school and even in universities and stuff, you will have this thing where if you fail, you get punished by it. The punishment, let's say for example, if you fail in high school, you get demoted. So next year you get demoted to a lower class because you failed certain subjects. So you now categorized as not so smart. So you go into class G, H, I, J, K all the way down, all right? So then what does that do to you? It just feels demoralizing. in higher education, in universities, if you fail, and then you repeat that again, right? So it's cost on your side. You have to pay for that paper again.
Sure.
But go and ask your Bill Gates and Steve Jobs how many times did they fail in order to get to the success that they had, right? I think everyone knows that WD-40 spray, that lubricant spray where it helps you. So the reason why it's called WD-40 is because the guy took 40 times to perfect the formula, right? It's not called WD-5, it's WD-40 because
That's interesting.
40 is the number of times he tried before he got, hey, this works, right? So why is it in education, when we're talking about digital, there's no one way of doing it. So why is it that if I fail on something, punish, right? It actually should be encouraged. So if I were to, for me, why it shouldn't just be a device, it should be some sort of an ecosystem where there's a project, there's like devices for you to use, but then you have to have that ability to like, okay, you know what, even if I do, and if I fail, it's okay lah. It's just part of the learning process. That part is key for it.
Right. This is interesting. Just this morning I came across a video. No, was it this morning? Was it last night? I remember. But this one programmer on Instagram, he was telling about how to teach programming, and he was saying that the generic way of teaching is tell them to do A, B, C, D, and then repeat A, B, C, D. But then he was like, okay, but for programming it's different because what's best is because when you do A, B, C, D and you don't do it right, you'll find a way to figure out how to do it right. And then once you get to the outcome, that's the learning process. Not learning, not looking A, B, C, D and repeating the same thing. It's figuring out how to get to D once you know A, B, C, D.
Correct.
So the way that he said it was, okay, tell them A, B, C, D, but then don't tell them to do the same, to get the same outcome. Do something else, but follow the steps. And then once you figure everything out, you get there. And I think that's interesting. You really realize with what you...
At the end of the day, even if you see your SPM or your university, it's a game of memorization.
Yeah.
So SPM, we all done this, right? Maybe the smart ones was listening, maybe not so, but the ones like me, it's like 2-3 days before the exam, you hafal lah the buku, right? You try whatever lah, you read terbalik ke, you read this way ke, you try whatever practices. It's all about memorization. But memorization doesn't relate to understanding, right? It's just you're memorizing everything word by word. So that part for me is the key where, like, it's not just about telling people A, B, C, D. It's actually just giving them a framework and let them explore on that area.
True. And, I think this is the philosophy that he actually put into 42KL, which we will touch on the second segment.
I'm really looking forward to touching the 42KL. I think we guess.
True.
Now that we've heard, his story, let's hear 42KL story.
But before we go to the section, let me just tell you that this is a collaboration between Asli. I forgot to say that in the beginning of the episode. So
What is Asli?
Yeah, what is Asli? Nanti saya sakit kita.
Okay, second saya pun boleh, tak ada masalah.
So, see you in the second segment. All right, welcome back to the second segment of the podcast. So before we actually start the second segment, I have to introduce you to Asli. Yeah, I know, Daniel. Sorry about this. We usually say this in the beginning of our episode, but today sebab macam Jeff dia terlalu interesting, so I just gotta ask him a lot of questions. Okay, but so what is Asli? So Asli is Asia Strategy and Leadership Institute. So it's a think tank under Stanway Education, right? So they mostly focus more on leadership and nation building. So the reason why we're able to do this mini series is because it fits into the nation building criteria, which is education. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people talk about education. They mostly talking about politics. Yeah, politics is the big thing. But we have KG to do that, so I no need to add something new. I think this is and the reason why we're doing this mini series as well is because I think I felt this anger. It was like, apa benda cakap benda yang sama je, kenapa tak benda baru? So this is why we're doing this mini series.
Betul.
Yeah.
I mean overall pun education is an important thing. We talk about it in more early episodes.
Yeah.
And we actually somewhat connected to someone that used to be a part of our education higher ups lah, part of our nation's education, and then he did mention that he's not satisfied with the current situation. So I was like, okay, I think this episode in this mini series we can bring up these things that could be worked on, could not be worked on, or macam maybe we can get input from the people yang out there lah.
Yeah, betul. So yeah, so let's move on to the second segment of the podcast. So tadi we learned about Jeff's background, how he started up living and from multimedia to a small place. In was it in Petaling?
Yeah, yeah. Petaling.
Yeah, Petaling.
And then kalau salah.
Hey, go back again. Rewind back, right?
You guys can correct me. So that and you're into tech from a young age, you do coding and stuff, right? So I think not all of us know what 42KL is, right? So maybe you wanna explain a little bit about what 42KL, how it started, and how it became this big project.
Yeah. So 42 KL is part of the 42 network, which started off originally in Paris in 2013. It started off there where the idea is, can we get together a bunch of people who are interested in digital and computer science, put them together in a room in a basement, and to see what projects can come out, what's the new things that can be innovated. So it kind of like started off from there, and then in 2016, the founder who created 42 Paris said like, hey, why don't we put this out to the test and we build a school in Silicon Valley, which was just a few doors down the road from Stanford University. And Stanford, as we know, is like the global leader when it comes to computer science.
Right.
You want to graduate from Stanford having a degree in computer science, because that means you're done, right? It's easy $20,000 salary from Google on a monthly basis, and all that's it, right? So life is sorted. So he decided to do that, and it proved to be hugely successful. And then that's where it started expanding across the world. Now, 42 Kuala Lumpur started off the idea or the conversation of like, hey, we should have something like this. Started off in like 2018, 2019. And that point of time, our ministry, MDAT, and the former MCMC minister, who's now the Ministry of Digital, which is YB Gobing. So actually him and MDAC and a few other people, they went over to Paris to see the school, and they came back and they said, we're going to do this in Malaysia. But who runs this school in Malaysia is also the question, right? So long story short, I think Sunway's name came into play because Sunway Education Group is one of the largest private education institute in Malaysia, but it's also non-profit, where it's governed by the Jeffrey Chia Foundation.
Right.
It's not really your conventional style of private education where it's about business, it's about profit and dividends. It's more about how we can give back for scholarships, right? So I think if you drive around in Damansara, you'll see like this Jeffrey Chia Foundation scholarships that's given out, and it's you don't see that with any other sort of private education house, because the way Sunway Education Group operated its university is purely on this non-profit model where it's funded or governed by the Jeffrey Chia Foundation. So the chairman, Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia, he had conversations with the university team to say that like in the future, are more and more people actually going to be going to university, or are they going to be learning outside of the university, right? And the reason why I think this is also happening is like when I was in the media field at that time, one of the top conversations that we used to have around this time, which is like just after SPM, is the number of people after SPM not pursuing higher education, right? And it keeps increasing year after year, right?
Yeah.
And that's not good, It's like if you lepas SPM and then you don't want to go to university or to college because you can learn through other means, it's actually also difficult because you're not sort of like giving them an idea of what are the fundamentals that you need to learn in order to be someone in the industry.
But
you could go to like Grab, Foodpanda, but how long does that going to last you as a career, right? 1 or 2 years at most. So that's where we came in and we're like, hey, we want to do this. So what is 42? It's a program that if you are 17 and above, you can join. Do we ask for SPM? We don't. Do you need to be proficient in computer science? You don't. Do you need to, have like a laptop or, stuff? No, you don't. Right?
Oh, it's like all there.
Everything is provided for you, right? It's all given to you. It is a physical program. It's not an online training program. We're very much spoiled now after COVID, that everything must be online, you know. But no, we are physical. There is actually a beauty in learning in a physical environment, right? Not just in your room, in your four walls.
Yeah.
I think being around, surround like this is important. And it's literally open for as long as you're 17 and above. And it's free, right? And I think that's the key part. Like, it is absolutely free.
And this is where the scam.
Right? Yeah, so a lot of people is like, sure, got, you know, asterisks, you know.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you see flyers like, you know, get a free, you know, Coke on the house, right?
Yeah.
And then got asterisks, right? Or with minimum purchase of 10 ringgit, right? But it's like, there's none of this, right?
It's completely free.
Completely free.
Yeah.
You come in, we give you an assessment, you pass the assessment, we give you a 1-month trial, you pass the trial, you get a 1-year access. In that 1-year access is just build your portfolio based on the projects that we have for you.
Right.
And then when you come out of it, you need a job, we give you a job.
I think that's really interesting about 42KL because it's what I read based on Taco again. Yeah, you're on the line. But like what I understand is that dia tak ada cikgu, okay? Dia tak ada lectures, dia tak ada dia tak ada like class. It's all peer-to-peer learning. How is that effective?
Well, your research is good, right? Because no teachers, no classes, and it's peer-to-peer learning.
Yeah.
So how does it work? It sounds crazy, but actually, if I were to ask you, it's like, hey, if you guys were to, build this podcast here at this point in time, right? Did you guys went to a school?
Oh no, we didn't.
No, right? So was there a teacher to guide you how to?
We asked around people.
Yeah. So you're peer-to-peer learning from others, right?
Yeah.
And then now you're doing this, right? And you guys have, your recording setup, your mic setup, your cameras, what is the, proper aperture settings or your mic levels. And then when you've done the production bit, then you got your distribution part, right? So I'm sure no one has taught you how to put it up on Spotify, on YouTube. You just do your editing, you learn it on your own.
Yeah.
So how is that different from computer science? Like computer science is what? Is building, for example, building a web server or building an online application or building a tool. Everything you touch these days, it's all digital, right? So why is there a need when it comes to something that requires creativity? We need to have this setup. We're going back to classroom, right? Classroom is like even auditorium. Auditorium is, what's the concept? Everyone sit in, face one direction. That means technically, psychologically, you are telling the people there's only one way of achieving the things, right? But that one way is his or her sort of way of teaching, right? And that is not a fault of is all universities horrible or schools? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in a field that requires creativity, it requires you to look beyond just that one way of thinking.
So do you think other courses should be like that? I'm from engineering, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think as an engineer program, do you think it should be 42KL, it's just no teachers, just peer-to-peer learning?
Yeah, someone asked me this question before, why is it not peer-to-peer learning in others, right?
Yeah.
So I remember asking the person, would you want, let's say you go for operation, right, in the hospital, and then, the fella's gonna cut you open, do a heart surgery, then it's like, doctor, where did you learn this? Peer-to-peer learning. Of course, no lah, right? Right, because that's clearly not the way of, it's so, if it goes back to it, if it requires creativity, it requires innovation.
Then it needed.
That should be, but it shouldn't be the only element that you need, right? So in engineering is very creative, right? But it's also very much, there is an A to Z of how you must do this, right? So for example, you can't just build a building. It's like, okay, you know what? Creativity, right? The pyramid upside down, right? Of course, that's not going to work, right? So you still need some fundamentals that you cannot move away.
Right.
Have to learn, right? In digital, there are certain elements as well that there are some fundamentals you need to learn. But these fundamentals don't necessarily have to come from just a teacher, for example. It can come from a mentor. It can come from an industry expert. It can come from a form of a book or, a YouTube video, right? But then the implementation of it, and when you want to do something creative, that's where you can have this peer-to-peer element, right? So engineering can be a mix of both. I don't see why not for a project that you have, can be purely peer-to-peer element. And before you even go to your lecturer to submit, potentially actually the first layer of submission is peer-to-peer review, right? Do you have that kind of system where 3 people, you got one project, you took 2 months to do a project. After you complete a project, you need to have peer-to-peer review where each team critiques each other, what is good, what is not good, and then you give you another 1 week sprint to improve based on the feedback that you have. Only then the submission should happen. Right? That for me is how we can change the education system, right? To make it more conducive to have different people, different ideas, right? Potentially even maybe your projects, go and get the business students to, review your work, right? So again, it's not just having one bubble and then you will just mingle around there, right?
Because I feel like the problem with engineers, right? It's like they know how to build things, but they don't know how to sell.
Yeah, right. So have a peer review with the students in business faculty, right? Or students in the art faculty, right? Hey, I build all this, right? But then I really don't know how to market this, right? You guys from the arts, you probably learn marketing, social media and stuff. How can we do this? So when your final submission is full on, you have a business plan, you've got a marketing plan, and you got your engineering plan. So you tell me now, that is how we should actually change our education system. And we're not doing that. It's still silo, faculty. One faculty sebelah sana. Then you have to take a car and drive around to another faculty. How is that conducive, right?
It's not lagi-lagi dengan bukit lagi dengan jalan
So
I think this is great because one of the things that I came across during my course is I'm taking biomedical engineering right now in my final year. But in my first year, my lecturers, I would say not all, but some of my lecturers are the type that, okay, as a biomedical engineer, how do you solve this problem? But the question will be like, what the hell? Because I'm like a first year student just coming in and then suddenly like, I'm a biomedical engineer. But this idea that at least you're not on your own, or you can discuss things with your friend actually helps a lot. And like I think that now that I'm in my final year, like this idea of this peer review and peer-to-peer learning and listening from other perspectives like your from other faculties as well, I think is a great idea. It's like it's outside of this, like that idea and that question is already, I think it's a bit too much to ask just straight up. Okay, as a biomedical engineer, solve this problem. But like that's one question. There's like one extreme of macam putting so much on the student. But there's another extreme of not putting enough on the student. There's like macam I see you guys as students that can't solve this biomedical engineering problem. So like, I think like there's middle ground of having you think like a biomedical engineer, but with your friends, and like have like a whole macam
support in numbers.
You
on your own memang tak boleh lah.
Betul, And in addition to have also that macam, okay, you guys can actually think on your own.
I mean, that's a bit different on my case. Kayak in Penang lah. So I think most of us know that UiTM has a lot of branches all over Malaysia. Cuma tu lah, like the problem with the branches is that they don't have a lot of funds, so they can't do much. So right now I just entered UiTM Shah Alam, and there's a lot of things you can do. Like I just know that we can go to a competition to Australia to do like a car building competition. That's pretty cool. I want to do that, man. And like there's
So why do you want to join a competition that's happening in Australia? It's also because you want to be able to be exposed into a different environment, different people, different way of thinking. I guarantee you, half of the time that you're there, you're going to be talking to people who you've never met before. You're going to be talking to them about that particular thing, right? That is again how you can help someone who is probably their perception of learning is like, I just need to learn A to Z and then cukup once I go out to the industry, can get a job. But actually nowadays the jobs market is so competitive. You need to be able to actually have that overview of outside, of other things as well. You don't need to be an expert of it, but at least I know a little bit here and there. I know people that I can always just rely on WhatsApp. So I think it's cool that you're also exposing yourself to other things.
And I guess we can build a car together. See? The thing is, every time when I go like,
how does a biomedical student come into this whole car sector? Is probably something.
It's because he's into cars.
Okay, right.
So like whenever he comes to me and then he says like, "Aka, nak buat itu lah, nak mana buat project car."
Interesting.
Tapi apa ni?
It's funny. I know a lot more about automotive engineering than yeah.
And I know more about law stuff compared to engineering. Yeah.
And it's because of passion.
Yeah.
Now, so when it becomes a passion, you technically don't need someone to instruct you to go and learn, right?
Yeah.
Come Saturday morning, first thing it's like, open YouTube, watch Top Gear or Grand Tour, stuff like that, right? And then you start becoming into this kind of, or you watch like Mighty Car Mods and stuff. So you learn all those kind of things because it's your passion, right? But technically you're learning, right? And you're learning a whole bunch of things. So I think we also need to try and find ways where in the field of education, it should be based on passion also, right?
Right.
Not just try to pigeonhole people into this kind of field, but sometimes passion can really, accelerate that learning.
But now talking about passion, right? So one thing about 42K which I really like respect for is that you introduce industry-based learning, right? So like, I want to know how you do that. Like what type of industry projects you give to your students to make them prepared to enter the workforce.
Yeah, so I think when we look at so if we reverse engineer a little bit, right? When we got wind of like, hey, we want to do this 42 Kuala Lumpur school. So it's like, industry-based projects. The first thing we asked is like, can we just put these projects into our existing computer science degree program, right? How hard can that be, right? So when we looked at it, it's like, okay, let's say today itself we want to design a machine learning curriculum. It will take maybe about 1 year to design the curriculum. And then after 1 year, it needs to go approval with the governing body, which takes about 6 months. Minimum 6 months. Then you have to put it into a computer science program, which is 3 years long, right? And then after that, you need a 6 months internship. So all in all, if you're looking, 1 year design program, 6 months for approval, 3 years for the program, and then another 6 months, you're looking about 5 years, 6 years in total, right? Now that means if I start today designing my machine learning curriculum, 6 years from now only I can see the result. But ChatGPT came out about 1.5 years ago, and now you see the advanced is like next level, right? So how is it that it's going to be relevant if the computer science, conventional way of learning is not fast enough, right? So that's where we're like, so 42 is great. So how do we do it, right? On our end, we remove a lot of the middle places, right? Approval? Nah. Industry say this is needed, we launch it. Is it a 3-year program? Nah, it's not a 3-year program. It's a 1-year program. And how long does the project take to do sometimes? Maybe 70 hours. So, okay, so you're cutting 3 years to just 70 hours. The 6 months approval thingy, remove. Doesn't need it. Why? Because industry is the one that's guiding us, right? So then the internship process is already part of it. The designing of the curriculum also actually is not a 1 year long for us, right? Because when we go to our industry partners, they got an R&D team. Their R&D team is actually just bombarded with too many new things that they just don't have time to tick off the boxes that they already have in mind. They know what are the challenges, right? So give it to us. Let us help you out.
But like, do students easily adapt to 42KL? Like, I mean, it's a good system, right? Peer-to-peer learning, but like, does it help fit all the students?
There are some students who will excel in it, right? Because it's their passion, right? It's really their passion. They love it. They will excel in it. There are some students who you need a little bit more of, not guide, but like, how to say this in the right way, where, a kick in their thing, at the back, so, because they just like hesitate. Like just sitting on the fence, like, do I want to do this? And I was like, just do it, bro, right? Just try, right? Just see how far you can go. There's no risk, right? If you fail, you fail. It's fine. And then there are some students who cannot adapt to 42 because they have been from day one of their learning until wherever they are at that point of time have always been spoon-fed. So when they come into 42, I mean, the only thing we give them when they join our program, that 1 month trial that we have, right? The only thing we give them is their username and login for the IMAX that we have. There's no tutorial book, no
It's all on you.
no guidebook. It's all on you, right? So I have some students come in, it's like, Jeff, what do I do? And I was like, you got your login to the IMAX? I got, you log in and you figure it out yourself. And then it's like, but it's day one, like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, you log into the IMAX first, Like, that's the only thing I can just log into the IMAX. Right? Then when they log into the IMAX, you will see some students just like staring there, waiting for something to come. And then I was like, don't you not see on your screen there's one file there called README, right? And then you click on that file and then README, there's some, lines for you to read. It will point you to a YouTube link, then it'll point you to the LMS system, then it'll point you to this, and then it just explore, right? But some students cannot. They need to be fed in, right?
Oh, right.
So there's a mix of variety.
Do you think that you can change those students in a way?
Yeah. So we want to do more with schools, right? I think high
Right.
schools itself, right? We want to do more with high schools, and actually there are more high school students who are just learning on their own already at this point of time, right? I think a lot of parents come up to us and say like, hey, I want to send my kid to the 42 KL, can or not? But it's like, oh, it's 17 and above, like your kid's only 12, but they're already doing it. That's why actually you see a rise in computer science programs for kids, right? Or for teenagers, like, below 17 years old. There's a lot right now. Because our current education system, as much as, we know all the day, I don't want to talk much about it, but it is not able to adapt to that variety of different learners that we have, right?
Right.
So hence that change that is really required is very difficult, because it's no longer just like, do one step forward, right? In this day and age, even one step forward, right, is 10 steps backwards already, right? We really need to be radical in doing something. It may not fit with like the majority of people, but over time, I think you will find more of these young people will be, embedded into a system where they are really just hungry to learn new things and so on.
Talking about like this system that you're placing, right? I wonder if Haziq will enjoy this. No, the reason I'm saying this is because Haziq is the person like he cannot sit still.
Right.
Yeah. And like if he's really interested in something, he'll just go and find out.
Well, I'll invite you guys over. It's like, come on, give it a try, right? Give it a shot.
Sure.
I'm actually I'm really considering it right now because like after biomedical engineering, there's this company that I was planning on going for ISN. It's this kind of category, but it's more on the tech aspect. It's under sports tech, but when I was there, I realized how important coding was and programming was. Like I was doing it a lot. I was like, okay, wait. But then at the same time, that was my internship. And I was like, okay, but I have to learn this before I can do it. So I spent I had a 10-week internship, but I spent 4 weeks or 5 weeks learning how to code Android application. So I was thinking before I got back into work, I was like, okay, I should learn coding. And I was like, he's giving me something.
What?
So hanging right?
Come on. Not only is like he's giving you like this, it suits you, man.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah, it suits you. Like
I am the kind of person that likes to study a lot.
I think he's trying to convince himself to join, but he needs a buddy to. So when you join, he will join. Because he feels like he's also very much keen in it. But as he's never said that I will want to join. He's trying to convince you to join. I bet you he'll be like, hey bro, when you joining? I will join together, bro.
I mean, it's always meaningful when to do things with a friend that you always trust, right?
Yeah. Or you can have friends when you join the program, right? So
either way, I'll find it both anyways. Right, I think before we move on to the third segment, I think, it's really cool that you're doing it, right? But then I'm pretty sure other people also want to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you keep this sustainable? I know this is funded by Jeffrey Chia and everything.
Foundation and Khazanah's Dana Impact and our anchor partners.
So like, do you think it should be in the business entirely or it should be non-profit?
Yeah, if someone is running an education program as a business, then technically you're going to eliminate quite a number of people, because then, for a business, you have your target market and, your profiles that you want to hit. So you'll never be able to cope for the masses. For us, actually, the setup is good. How we sustain ourselves, so obviously, the foundation, Jeffrey Chia Foundation comes into play. Sunway Education Group comes into play. Khazanah and Dana Impact comes into play. And then we have our anchor partners, Experian Malaysia, which is a credit rating company. We've got PPG, we've got, a bunch of other corporates as well. But I think where we really want to see 42 Malaysia, now we call ourselves 42 Malaysia now because we got Kuala Lumpur, we have Iskandar Putri in Johor, and then we got Penang, and then next year potentially in Kuching, Miri, and Kota Kinabalu lah. So we cannot just say I-42 Kuala Lumpur anymore. It's 42 Malaysia lah. Right. So we have those expansion plans in place. I think what is critical is that if we look at how 42 Seoul is running, or 42 Singapore is running, or 42 Abu Dhabi is running, it's fully a government initiative to train talents, right? And that's where we look at, we need the government agencies to come in, see this program, and they have seen, 42 Kuala Lumpur and the success we've had. But now it's like, can it be something that is all the master plans and blueprints and stuff? It's already a program that is there, it's executed, it's delivering. Now it should just be like, after Form 5, you got your national service kind of thing. Why not national service in digital, right? Because the government keep talking about bringing all this digital
Why not
company.
update it something?
Why? Okay, you know what? After SPM, everyone has an opportunity to join the 42 Malaysia program, and if they do well, they're great, right? Delivering the need. If they don't do well, then at least then they know what areas they should go for in higher education, right? In the conventional higher education. So I think that's where we're trying to aim at. That's where we want it to be in place, because then it's a longevity, right? Many years to come.
I bet it's pretty hard to do a business and then doing it as a right as well.
Yeah, it's two different ideologies, I feel.
Two different ideologies, but maybe we can touch that on the third segment later. Yeah, actually, before we move on to this third segment, I want to just talk a bit about what I just debated a few days ago, which will be said in the third segment, which is about, let me just check back what I see debated about. Move fast, break things philosophy. Right, we'll touch about that later. So yeah, that was the second segment about 42 KL, its ecosystem, and how they introduced industry-based learning. Pretty cool. Aziz, you should join.
Why are you telling me?
I'm saying you. It's okay. You get the call. See you on the third segment.
Nanti kau call aku. Aku dah habis dah.
We'll move on to the third segment. Let's go. Alright, we're back in the third segment. So we're actually having a fun time.
We had a fun time. We had such a great time.
Alternative education talks are actually quite fun.
Was it?
Yeah. I do we gelap banyak gila ni.
Yeah, definitely. It's like okay, here's the situation that we are in now, but when you talk about alternatives, you kind of have to unravel what the problem is, what's the reality is.
And I think what's fun about alternative is that you can just go crazy at times.
That's true. But sometimes crazy works, right?
Yeah.
If it works,
You challenge the status quo lah.
That's true. Challenging the status quo is always fun.
Betul. Tapi this third segment ni is more of a discussion. So kita akan cakap pasal tentang the current problems dengan mungkin some cadangan from you untuk improve our digital education.
Yeah, so actually we've talked about this in a previous episode. Like universities and business and what should we learn in universities and stuff like that. But specific to you, because you're from 42 KL, you learn SAC and you learn coding and programming in 42 KL, right? 42 Malaysia now, right?
Yeah.
So you've heard about universities, from your friends, have you been in contact with universities?
Yeah, we've been in talks with a few different universities.
That's interesting. So, what do you think should be different when it comes to what university is teaching? Do you think our education system here, specifically in Malaysian universities, should just be continued, or do you think there should be something added to it, or do you think they should be changed?
Well, I could go down a path of just burning all the bridges that I've been trying to make right now, or I go down the politically correct stable. Actually, no. So I think, jokes aside, I think I hear a lot of conversation of like universities need to innovate, right? And there are many ways of doing this. I feel the best way for universities to just sort of move forward with the times is to just come forward and let's have an ecosystem around different universities, polytechnics, alternative education, not just 42. There's actually a whole bunch of other alternative education models or institutes in Malaysia itself, right? And we should all together sort of, come together in a session, or, like the Education Redefined where you came in, right?
Yeah.
And have that kind of session. Imagine if that kind of session where, it's really just having a discussion or a showcase of what the future would look like for people in Malaysia. 10 years from now, those who are currently in Standard 5, Standard 6, they are going to be the ones going to
Yeah.
right? So we need to start thinking of like really going back, right? To then build for the future. Does that require, an investment from, the government again, to invest in an AI lab and all that? And all? Honestly, I don't think that's needed. Because I think the best way for us to do is just share resources together, similar to macam you peer-to-peer learn, but universities should peer-to-peer learn with each other, so lah.
Maksudnya, rather than being siloed,
Yeah.
basically, okay, apa yang ada, your item ambil.
Yeah,
Apa yang item
of
ada,
course.
tentu.
It should be peer-to-peer learn, right? Because each university have their own skill sets. Like, why you join UM is because, they are good in this. Why you join UITM because they're good at that. Why you join, Sunway Education Group because they are doing it. Why you join Taylor's or APU. They all have their own skill set, right? But everyone's split in a way, right? So and then when you join, I have this feeling where sometimes when you represent one university, then you think, like you from another university, it's like, like suddenly got rivalry, right? So it's like, what's it? But actually for the students, there's no real rivalry. Actually, they would love to, be around, right? So I think that collaboration needs to happen. First and foremost, we need to do a collaboration because we need to see how the students actually interact, how they behave. Do they like it? Do they enjoy it? Then we double down. Then only should the investments come in into how we can grow things further. Whereas right now, the way I look at it is that like, AI, a big thing, like the last 2 years, AI, suddenly boom, like, we want to do an AI lab. But then it will be just one university who will get to build this AI lab, right? And then what happens to the other university then, right? They'll be like, hey, what am I, doing this for, right? So I feel we need to change that perception, right? Education is for all. So why don't universities also do it for all? It's for all, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter lah. You from this university, you want to learn that one in a different university. Okay, there should be some track that allows them to collect. That is my grand vision for university lah. So where 42 comes into play, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build that little bridge with everyone lah. It's a spider web lah, right? Hopefully in the middle is 42, right? And then everyone else, like at the end they will still sort of like, I want to innovate. Because it's too much work for me to innovate, or I need too much funding to innovate. Never mind lah. I MOU with 42 KL or 42 Malaysia. I sign a partnership with them. So if my students like, hey, I want to learn new things, go to 42, learn, then come back, right? That is what we want to build in the future.
Okay. I think. So you're saying in a way that to make sure that universities adapt into current times is that they should just collaborate.
Yeah. Collaboration is key with anything digital, right? It's either you collaborate together, you do a merger or things like that. You see a whole bunch, like just see what the industry is doing, and then can we do it for university's sake? Now there will be a lot of challenges. I'm sure that whoever's for working in the university now will be like commenting. It's like Jeff is talking rubbish. He doesn't know how difficult it is. But that's the whole point, right? If it's difficult because there are so many policies or things that are put in place, that is why we exist in this role, or whoever's that saying is difficult. You exist in that role is because it's for your job to then try to break that policies or restrictions to make it an easier process. At the end of the day, we need to think of who is the one that's actually going to benefit here, right? Is it the students who are going to go through the program, or is it a personal thing that you're trying to achieve, right? So if it's your own personal agenda, then of course you're like, cannot do, right? Because it's difficult. I'm the kind of person who's like, okay, let me show you how it's done, right? Do it, do fast break things, right?
Yeah, I do fast break things. Yeah.
That kind of mindset needs to be implemented now.
Yeah. So about that mindset I just mentioned, do fast break things. Yeah, do fast break things. So this is a debate that I debated 2 days ago. I wasn't debating, I was just listening. So this is what the entire text says lah. So move fast break things refers to the philosophy that advocates a rapid innovation and development, prioritizing speed, agility over perfection and caution. It also encapsulates a mindset that encourages taking risks, experimenting, and iterating quickly, even if it means encountering failures along the way. So this house opposes the move fast, break things philosophy in the tech sector. Yeah. So it's a quite interesting debate. So it was a friendly UiTM with another university. So I kind of understand, like, that, if you use this philosophy in the tech industry, that, you're probably going to create a lot of things that are incomplete, so the users won't get satisfied by the end. But if you have, if you don't use that philosophy, you never get that. Yeah. So I feel that that's the thing that Malaysia is in right now. We're moving too slow.
Or we're not moving at all.
Do you think that we should apply this philosophy, move fast, break, like, even if we don't get, the full package, at least we can get real time feedback?
That's true.
Yeah, I think, it's why not? I've always been move fast, break things, do first, apologize later. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like many times, it's like, we've been called up for this, and it's like, hey, why did this happen? I was like, sorry, didn't know. Like, didn't know it was a policy, but I guess, the results are there though, right? And so, like, then you implement it in a way. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's interesting, right? Because debates will always be like point A and point B.
Yeah.
Right? But actually, in the real world, point A and point B is together. Right? It's just that you have to take a hard stand on point A. They don't have to stand on black or white.
How do you find that middle ground?
You find a middle ground, right? And that's why actually in the real world, there is things called like an R&D lab, right? In every organization, there's an R&D lab. The R&D lab is the move fast, break things. But as a consumer, when you, let's say, like, you have an app. Let's say the app is like this super app that you can do ride sharing, food ticket everything right? So imagine that app, if like every day got update, got new feature, but then the feature like not really working that well, right? Of course, it's frustrating for the user. But do you not think in their R&D lab, they're actually doing that, right? They keep trying it out, keep testing it out to see what works, how do you respond to it. So it does have that synergy, right? Move fast, break things. And then when they find some sort of way, then they go out and, actually put it out to the consumer. And then you're like, oh, I got a new update. Oh, now I can apply for, an online loan now. It's very easy now, right? So in the real world, there are things that we need to implement. When it comes to education, I feel it's also vital that we play that R&D, move fast, break things, get to where we need to be, then we put out, right? So Malaysia, where does Malaysia stand at this point in time? We jokingly say, I feel Malaysia's not even moving at all, right? Even if we move one step forward, it's still, like I said, it's 10 steps back. Right? Because everyone is moving too fast ahead.
Yeah.
So I feel if for us, the best way to do it, let's just do something radical, right? And that's why I think 42 Malaysia exists, is completely radical.
It is quite radical,
Completely free education, But our goal, 10,000 students to go through our program in 10 years' time. If you look at the number of graduates every year, 10,000 is small. Then for us, it's over a 10-year period. And like 1,000 students every year for the next 10 years. 1,000 students, how many graduates do we get from universities? Wow, a lot, right? Hundreds of thousands of people graduate from universities in a year. But 42 Malaysia only doing 1,000 a year, right? Why? Because it's small. We are the move fast, break things. Right? And then whatever successes that we have, that's why we want to work with universities, right? Whatever success we have, we share with them, and then they will be able to do the ones where the 100 over 1,000 people who graduate every year, they will come out more equipped for the industry.
Because I feel like I think there's a need of risk element.
Yeah. If you don't take risks, then why
bother doing it? I mean, I guess this podcast itself is a risk, anyways.
It was.
Yeah. Even this mini series is a risk. I hope it does well.
Someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah, someone's got to do it. Yeah.
We might get in trouble.
You know what? I just realized that we're going to interview a Tan Sri after this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, will I get into trouble?
Let's see.
Huh?
I think he's gonna point out a few things. I think we can ask him.
Yeah. But it's okay.
What's something that we can say? What's something we can't?
Yeah. But it's cool.
We actually had a short briefing with some guy before. We were interviewing him for something, and he said, "Okay, no, don't say this." And okay, I mean, it's our first time learning that, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta be careful also lah.
But I guess prison is in a bad place maybe.
But then you can apply my philosophy lah. Do first apologize later.
That's another quote that we're gonna quote. you just apa? There's no wrong way.
There's no right way to do things.
Yeah.
But there's always a wrong way.
And then you do first, apologize later.
You're learning very different things later. That's like you get all of us into trouble. Man.
I don't think this will work well if I had a girlfriend.
Yeah, the girlfriend do first, break up later.
Break up later,
apologize later.
No, girlfriend, you apologize first. Then you do.
I think girlfriend or wife, you just apologize. Whether you did it or you haven't done it or you did
Just
wrong,
apologize,
just apologize. Every day you wake up, just apologize.
You know what? I've learned the hard way.
Yeah, every day you just wake up and apologize. She asks you why you apologize, you just say for something that I might do later in the future.
We should bring in Jeff just for relationship advice.
Yeah, usually that would be cool, right?
But let's bring back the conversation to tech, right? So okay. So one thing that is really like in conversation, but I don't think it's really moving much, is the AI framework in university. So this is quite irony now. Like before this, we were reluctant to bring phones or internet into campuses, and now we have it. So I don't see why we should be reluctant of using AI now. But I understand the flaws of it and the problems with AI,
like
plagiarism. But is it you should set up the rules and set up framework how you should use it so that you won't end up cheating.
Well,
So if you were I guess let's say you were a politician in the ministry, right? So
this is where I say first apologize later.
How would the framework look like?
I won't pretend if I'm a political minister or whatever, right? But it's just my personal opinion. My personal opinion of it is that you're right? We should encourage it. Where I remember when I was doing my high school time, no calculator allowed, right? But then after that, 2-3 years after that, I realized, wow, like the juniors can bring calculator for their AdMaths, exam. I'm like, wait, can cheating, huh? You got like a supercomputer there, right? Like I used to crack my head and to figure out. But wow, now these guys, they can bring their scientific calculator into school, right? And then in universities, obviously, you got internet is like limited access lah. Can only visit a few websites here and there, your Wi-Fi. But then there's so many ways of doing. You tether from your phone or you VPN and then you get access to a whole bunch of stuff. Now we see with the main issue is that it can make your work a lot faster.
Yeah.
Right? So writing in thesis now, right? Do you need 2-3 weeks or 2 months to write a thesis? I think now you can do it much faster, right? Yeah. Probably a day lah, right? You just tell ChatGPT one prompt. But it comes back again to, is that industry relevant or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think just doing that alone can get you a job in the industry? It's not, right? But that does not mean the industry doesn't use these tools, right? I've spoken to some CTOs and software engineers, right? And I asked them hey, with the rise of Microsoft Copilot, they can literally write a code for you, right? Like how, And I was like, yeah, we use it all the time, right? Because for us, we know how to write everything, but why am I spending 5-6 hours trying to write a code when if I can get an AI to do it, and I'm here to critique and to see how we can speed up that whole process, make it more efficient, and then do the deployment and all the other things, the important things, right? So I think in education, we also need to understand that, right? What is the role does AI play in this role, right? Is it just purely as the old school way of thinking, they're just going to use it to copy and paste stuff? Or is it to expand their horizon into knowing how to harness this kind of potential so that they can make more effort in doing things that are relevant for the industry? So if let's say you have a thesis where, you need to write, say, maybe, a 5,000 word, thesis and something, let's say like some topic around your neighborhood or whatever, right? Now, you may spend a lot of time, maybe, your English is not very good, your grammar may not be very good. You can use those tools to improve your grammar, right? Then maybe you want to use it on how do you frame certain things into better place. Then you use those AI tools, right? But you still do the groundwork. You go out, interview the people, do the talks, put it into paper, put your thoughts into it. So I think we need to really encourage that, right? The usage of these tools is for you to speed up certain mundane processes, but also for you to actually be able to get an output that is like, really quality output, right? Because right now, I think, to be honest with you, even if you were to compare someone who has really utilized AI for a project compared to someone who's maybe really good, but took a long time, but really just, put in the hard work and effort, from an industry point of view, from someone who come in and they review A and B, right, they will always say, oh, that one better, right? Because faster, right? Less, more efficient, faster. Why would you want to spend so much time? So there's also that case, right? If you reject AI and all that, you are going to fall behind.
Yeah, so basically, in some way, you said, how can we make this an industry base?
Yeah.
Right. I guess.
Do you guys not use it?
Of course.
So if you really use it on your day-to-day basis, right? Why don't we have some policy frameworks in place in terms of how we can harness it for our betterment, right? Rather than having that, discussion like, hey, later they use for cheating and all. Right, man.
Rather than fight it, why don't you allow people to use it, but use it in the right way?
Yeah. Encourage it and stuff, right? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that competition shouldn't be there, because now we're letting kids having laptops to school. So why can we not have AI? So why do you take so long, right? So and I think there has to be some sort of push lah.
Yeah. We have to do it.
Interestingly, this logo was designed with the help of AI.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
You're not a designer, right?
Yeah.
So there you go, right?
You know what? Some of our episodes, we actually use AI to help enhance our questions.
Yeah.
Quite cool.
Actually, you know what? I don't use AI for coding. I use AI for debates. So one of the things that I usually do is that I would try to understand the concepts. I know that AI, if I use ChatGPT in terms of getting me points, I can do it, but it won't help me build my point.
Yeah.
So I feel like it just helps me understand the basis of what this team is talking about. So it helps me a lot lah.
I think ChatGPT also, people tend to have a misunderstanding of what ChatGPT is, right? ChatGPT is basically just your Google that is on an ecstasy where it just pulls everything together and then do it, right?
That's right.
It's not creating something that is, out of nothing, right? It's referencing different things, putting together and stuff, right? Right, yeah, it's just quicker, right? Instead of you opening 20 tabs on your Google Chrome browser and then you read everything and then you're like, oh my god.
So basically it's giving you a conclusion.
So I think ChatGPT, a lot of people tend to understand it as in this AI that can create things for me like that. Actually, no, it's just collecting different information from everywhere. It's just that, it has 1 billion data points or something like that, and then it pulls together, so within 5 seconds you get it, right? So they also have to understand, if you understand that concept, then I think you'll understand how I can use ChatGPT better. Because if you then understand it, it's actually it's just pulling information from here and there. Oh, that means information might not be true. The information might be outdated. The information might not actually be what I'm actually asking for. Then you will understand it better. But if your perception of ChatGPT is this AI that can do things for me, then of course you will be of course if ChatGPT say this means correct lah, right? Because it created something for me when I asked you to do it, right? So, yeah, I think going back to what we, the higher up, agencies can do is that awareness, right? The awareness is not there. The people thought, AI. The simple assumption of AI is just that it creates things from out of nothing. It's not, it's not. It's just data. The world is full of data. Yeah.
That's true.
You know what? Okay, just a short story with this. Trying to share. It's funny because I was watching a movie. I was watching a movie with our cameraman. It's called Her. Yeah.
The cameraman's nodding behind there.
Yeah, so it was funny because I came in from Penang that day. I was stressed again, so I slept in his room. Yeah, so I had that assignment to do. which is watching that critique of her lah.
Right.
It was an AI, and I was like, it's pretty interesting how AI can be so advanced in so many ways, to the point that it catches feelings. Yeah, but I hope it doesn't happen in real life lah.
Well, in Japan there is, right? Oh yeah, in Japan there are people marrying AI robots, holograms and stuff. So I mean that's a different.
That's a different discussion.
And then not something, not my area of expertise.
It's okay.
But I mean, it's a creative world out there. I mean, I think the other movie is like if you watched Ready Player One.
Oh yeah, Ready Player One, or SAO, Spotter Online.
So I think a lot of those movies are also trying to envision the world.
Yeah.
And to some degree, a lot of us, when we see these new products, right, we think the world is going to be like that. The world is going to be like her. The world is going to be like Ready Player One and stuff, right? But actually, I think we're so far away from it being a reality.
Yeah, and
So far away. Well, it's not in my lifetime, not in your lifetime, not in many people's
we
lifetime.
say that
right now,
we
yeah.
say that we're going to have a flying car. And,
Was it 2020? Was it? Right?
yeah.
No, I don't think we need to be too concerned too much about in the world in the future like we're gonna have all this flying cars or whatever and all that kind of stuff, right? And let's build that kind of thing. It's like, I think take many steps back from that dream, and one is, can we first now itself for me, I think the critical is, can we improve on efficiency, right? That means every single task that we're doing today, can it be sped up?
Yeah.
Why we need to speed up is because we have a lot more, as humans, I feel we play a very important role in trying to preserve what we have, right? We are in a very finite resources, right? Whether it's like water, whether it's electricity, whether it's petrol and all these kind of things, right? Everything is finite in a way, right? So if we can really try to make our lives more efficient and spend that time thinking of solving world problems, or if you can't solve world problems, maybe you're not in that field, you're not in that power to do so, spend more time with the people that you love, right? Your family, your friends. At the end of the day, that is what I feel tech can do. It's not about harming someone's life and all that. Of course, there are the dangers of things, but if we can position ourselves that we just want to make your life more efficient so that, you can spend more time with your family, and more time with your loved ones, I think that in itself will be a good way for us to walk.
That's a good way to end the segment.
That's great.
Yeah, that was an amazing talk, man. Yeah.
Daddy.
It felt enriching listening to another perspective from the industry itself.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, it's pretty interesting that, in some way we got to break first. Move fast, break later. Yeah.
Do first.
And if possible, that we can start just really talking about, rather than AI is a bad thing, why not just create a framework first? So like, rather than just, right? So thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you guys. Thank you
coming
for
on the
this.
podcast. Yeah, and we hope that maybe we can foster collaboration together.
Fingers crossed, we can do anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sure, man.
Of course.
Yeah, and thank you so much for you guys for listening to this episode. So after this, so we've done with alternative education. Now we might get to something more interesting later. Yeah, maybe we'll post about Tan Sri. Tan Sri apa? Kita tengok pada episode seterusnya.
Let's go.
Yeah. So you can listen to Warna Jom Melepak on YouTube, not Instagram. You can listen to on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Yeah. And where you can follow Jeff and 42KL.
Yeah, just Google 42 Kuala Lumpur, 42 Malaysia, go to our website. Just Google it up. Right? And you'll find it. Yeah.
Okay, sure. And I think that's pretty much. Any last words, Aziz?
Yeah, that was great. You can leave it at that. If I had too much, then people are going to forget.
Yeah. If you want to bring in Jeff for another episode, just hit that like button. Let's say we can get 100 likes. Yeah. 100 likes, we talk about something else with Jeff.
Alternative relationships. Relationship advice, is it?
We can talk about how we can find a relationship with AI.
There's a conversation we'll let him do on his own. We will have a different conversation. I don't want to get into that.
Thank you for listening to Unpack. We'll see you in our next episode for Education Ministries. See you then.